Baker, Lynch, Escaday, Thibodeau, Cox, Smith, Epperson.
Yes.
We have four, Mr. President.
All right, we have the invocation by Mr. Epperson and the pledge by Mr. Smith.
I'll stand and bow. Heads, please. Father in heaven, once again, thank you for allowing us to be in the land of the living. We thank you for affording us another opportunity to partake of the tree of life. We thank you for this week, Father, especially as we commemorate your Son, Jesus Christ, death, his burial, and his resurrection. Father, we ask that you would bless everyone assembled here today. We ask that you would help us in our deliberations on behalf of the citizens of Caddo Parish. Father, we thank you for all of our citizens within this parish, our state, and this nation. Father, we also thank you for our military personnel that are throughout the world. These and other blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. You'll turn and face the flag and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. If you have a cell phone, would you please put it on silent, please? In the agenda additions. Don't see any requests. Citizens' comments. You'll have 3 minutes on your comment. We'll have one speaker. Maurice Lordens. Give us your name, address, and
all right.
Speak to us.
Thank you, sir. My name is Maurice Lordens, 1067 College, Shreveport, 71104. An attorney, office in the Beck Building, a couple of blocks from here, and I'm submitting my name and requesting the appointment to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I'm very interested, a longtime resident of Caddo Parish. I've appeared before the MPC several times. I was active in the citizen feedback activities that was conducted by the Goody Clancy group, and I'm very interested in seeing the parish and the city improved in areas that was indicated by the citizens in the master plan. I also have a kind of a practical bent. I like to get into the nuts and bolts of things. I'm very interested in regional development and improving Shreveport, particularly for the young people that seem to think there's nothing to do here, and I'd like to make it more attractive for them to stay around and instead of bugging out to the more exciting cities like Austin and New Orleans. My own children I have 22-year-old twins, and one of them just moved 2 weeks ago to New Orleans, and the other one is about to spend some time in France. So, any questions?
Ms. Lynch? Ms. Lynch?
Oh, I think that's enough.
Mr. Escaday?
I just have one. Do you, as an analogy, are you a shepherd or a sheep?
That's a good question. I'm both, I think. I don't just want to follow. I obviously want to contribute. But I do have some ideas, but I have things to learn too. So I don't approach this as somebody who's already a know-it-all.
Well, as an extension of government, I just hate to see everybody getting bogged down in progress. So work on being a little bit more shepherd, a little less sheep. I think private people tend to know how to move us forward better than the rest of us that kind of live in our little bubble here. But certainly consider supporting you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Epperson?
Stephen, how long has this vacancy been open?
We officially received this from Mr. Washington yesterday. It was accepted by the commission.
So Mr. Washington resigned?
Mr. Washington resigned to accept a position in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, he was. Okay, as of yesterday?
As of yesterday, it was official.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
If
makes everybody happy. Normally, we would try to get this filled within the following month. If my suggestion would be, if we have any candidates to be present at the next Thursday meeting, and make their statement, their case. I'm glad you came early, but that way we'll get a wide range of who wants to serve, and we can make our decision. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, under visitors, Mr. Cox, I believe you have someone here.
Yes, sir. I have Mr. Townley from the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Department Drug Task Force. If he would come up. And Mr. Parker, you might as well come on up too. A few meetings ago, we had some constituents come up, and the problem with drug paraphernalia being sold as novelties was addressed that day. And after that meeting, we all went out, some of us went out and looked at what was being sold at our neighborhood stores. And this neighborhood just happened to be in Southern Hills, and was really surprised what I saw. So after contacting Mr. Townley, he said that they had been working on stuff for a while, and after he explained to me what they were doing and wanted to do, I said we need to work together. So I brought him here today. He would have been here a couple of weeks ago, but he had a brief illness, and he's looking pretty good now, but I'm glad he's here today, and he's going to give you an overview of what they're dealing with and what we can do as a body. So, Mr. Townley?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. We'll talk to you a little bit. What you see in front of you is being sold over the counter and being marketed as potpourri or incense. These are different varieties. It may be a little hard to see on there. But if you would open the package and look at them, they look a little bit similar to marijuana, almost like different herbs and some kind of spices in there. And what they are, it's synthetic cannabinoid. These marketed as incense are sold over the counter to anybody who wants to buy them. Of course, they say on there not for anybody under the age of 21 years of older, but there's no law saying that they have to be. It's just the same thing you can go to the store and buy regular incense. And what this is, they're actually spraying these ingredients with a synthetic cannabinoid. And what that is a fake marijuana. A synthetic cannabinoid is something that is similar to marijuana when you look at it under a microscope and you break down the chemicals, and it gives you almost the same type of effect as marijuana. But we've seen so many different cases now involved in this, where so many calls have been to Poison Control Center. There's actually been some suicide behind it, real bad paranoia when it comes to it. There's been a lot of overdoses. People have actually tried at one time and end up in a coma in the hospital because we don't know exactly what these ingredients are. There's no human testing because on the back of each one they say not for human consumption. So the FDA is not going to test this and approve it to be sold. Louisiana has kind of made a step forward. There's only like 12 states in the United States that have outlawed it. Louisiana has made several of them outlawed, made them illegal. There's about 100 and something different chemical compounds right now that are illegal. Louisiana has outlawed most of them, but what we found out what the manufacturer are doing now, all they have to do is change a molecule on one of the ingredients, and it makes it legal to be sold in Louisiana. About 90% of the stuff that we're seeing in the crime lab right now is illegal for Louisiana. But there's no way you can tell it. You can actually, if you see this King Crypto, you see that one package there, I could buy 2 packages just alike, send both to the crime lab, and one of them may come back illegal for Louisiana. And that's the only way to know it. There's no field test kit for officers out there. There's a urinalysis test, of course, that the military uses. And I can tell you right now, the military has made it totally illegal across the board. It is illegal to use this or to possess it or sell it when it has to do with the military. And I'd like to see the same thing. I've talked to Chief Parker with the Sheriff's Office, and he's also our legal counsel. And we've been working together trying to come up with a parish ordinance to make it totally illegal to be sold or for possessed in Caddo Parish across the board. And there's a lot of municipalities across the United States that are doing the same. They're kind of taking the initiative more than what some of the states have actually done to ban it totally.
If you don't mind, talk about the drug paraphernalia as far as the bongs being sold as novelties and how it transforms into illegal
if you would.
Sir, if you go into, it used to be there was only certain stores that actually sold drug paraphernalia, head shops and stuff like that. You can go to so many gas stations now, and you walk in there, and there's tons of different pipes there. If you go and you notice that you check out by the cash register, and there's like a little glass vial with a flower in it. That little straight glass vial, that's nothing more than a crack pipe. If it's a glass vial with a little bowl on top of it, that's an ice pipe for smoking methamphetamine ice. They can sell this stuff under Louisiana law because they usually have a disclaimer for tobacco use only or as a novelty item. Louisiana law, when it comes to paraphernalia, says that it has to be either have residue or it has to be in conjunction with a controlled dangerous substance or marketed to be sold as used with a controlled dangerous substance. And that's why they can actually sell it over the counter. If you walk into a lot of these stores, like Mr. Cox said, you'll see all this stuff under the counter. You'll see it be sold right behind the counter. You'll see it there. And there's people who tell me that they go in these stores and there will be a line of young people standing to be able to buy this stuff and buy the pipe, just in line to wait to get this stuff. And a lot of people, it's targeted for people that, number one, they don't have a drug connection. They may not, they're kids, they don't have anybody they can go to go out and buy regular marijuana or cocaine or whatever. Also, people that work, people that are drug tested at work. This will not show up on a urinalysis test for marijuana. And that's why I do it. And also people that are on probation. You see a lot of probationers that are using this stuff because of the fact that it doesn't show up on a drug test kit like that.
And if you don't mind, I asked Mr. Parker to come by because he is already working with Mr. Townley, and I'm going to ask him to work with our parish attorney as far as the ordinance that they were trying to draft right now to present back to the parish in a timely manner so we can get this going. The main reason why that I brought these gentlemen in today is that this is getting bad. The photography or the photograph we saw last time of the gas mask, I showed to about 5 teenagers, and all the teenagers knew what it was for, and it wasn't a novelty item. This is getting bad. It's in our neighborhoods, and it's not at your Circle K's, it's not at your Triple J's, it's not at your Diamond Shamrocks. It's at these, what I call a hole-in-the-wall building that's been brought back to life by somebody who's just trying to make a buck at a corner convenience store. So my idea is to stop it before it really gets bad. And believe me, it's already bad. It's across this parish. I talked to a few people. I've got drivers that drive every day up in Spring Hill. It's up in Spring Hill. It's in Monroe. It's everywhere. If we don't do something soon, you're going to have kids getting really hurt by this. You're going to get adults hurt by this. Because once they try, I don't even know how they would figure out how to do this, but somewhere or another, people are putting this stuff on the market, selling it to our kids. My idea, and I was going to talk to Mr. Parker and our attorney, is you can't do it, you can't ban it because it is a novelty, quote. What I'm looking at is to do it like pornography. Put it behind a wall. If you're going to sell it in your establishment, put it behind a wall where it can't be seen. By mother and father bringing in their kids to grab a Coke and pump some gas, they won't be able to see that. Kids now know too much already. I don't want them to start at 5 years old asking their dad, well, what's that? Well, baby girl, that's a bomb. That's wrong. That's not the country that I grew up in. That's not the childhood I want my children to be brought up in. This is a start. And if y'all will work with us, the attorneys, we can get something drafted. They're going to sell it no matter what because of the way the laws are written. Politically incorrect is a bunch of crap when it comes to stuff like this. We need to take a stand on this, work with the sheriff's department, work with the attorneys, get something drafted, get it down to the legislature before the end of the session. Let them look at it. But I want to see something done in Caddo Parish. And I appreciate what you were doing. And right now, I'll open it up to the floor for questions.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go on record supporting Mr. Cox's initiative on those products being sold not only just in the rural America, but as he said, urban America as well. It's a shame to say that we can't, but yes, we can make a difference And I do feel the city and the parish working together to craft some uniformity. When we both working together to solve this problem in the city and the parish is a great way to say we are together in this band in our community. It's enough. We got X pills, we got alcohol, we got drugs, we got meth labs, we got everything in our community. You mean to tell me America can't stand up to a foreign product being made in a foreign country sold on American soil? Something wrong with that. When we say this is okay for our children to go to the mom and pop store where they used to buy bologna and cheese or some milk, now you sold everything that's been sold in our neighborhood store. If they selling this, then maybe other things been sold too. If I know it's been sold, surely people that wear law enforcement uniform know something else going on around in our neighborhood. That is wrong. It always comes back to our neighborhood. All the mess is always sold in urban America. Drugs, prostitution, shotgun houses, ghetto slumlords. They always come and prey on people that are poor because they can't get out and go to the commercial store. That is wrong. And I'm glad to see that maybe we can try to close up some of these loopholes that exist in this particular problem. Have there been any case study on anybody having any side effects from taking this product that you know of?
There hasn't been any long-term because it's relatively new on the market. I know that the Poison Control Center, before this first got popular, they received maybe 10 calls or so for people that were having issues or overdoses. They're up in the hundreds now. The Poison Control Center received hundreds of calls. We get calls all the time at our office from parents whose kids are been strung out on this stuff. Recently, in fact, one of the district attorney's office, one of the agents had called me. A friend of his daughter ended up in a coma from smoking this one time. And let me say, all it is a money-making proposition. We've had people call when the Louisiana law changed. They called us and said, "Hey, look, is this stuff legal to sell?" We said, "Well, we don't know unless it's tested. And the only way we can do it is if we purchase it from you, and then we go and we can get a warrant for you for distribution if it is illegal." But we had them tell us that, well, you know what? It's worth the chance because the profit margin on selling 10 of these is more than selling 10 cartons of cigarettes. Because it's such a profit margin on it. It's all about the almighty dollar for them, and that's it. And that's all they're concerned about.
What part of the area you've been working in the most? Just in the rural or just?
Everywhere. Rural and in the middle of the city. We've made a few reps. We made, personally, I bought it undercover from people, either right behind the counter or hidden behind the counter somewhere. We've hit several stores. We've also been seizing, we've been getting some calls from FedEx through our DEA office here, where pounds and pounds of this stuff is coming in. We recently seized several pounds of it and thousands of dollars. I personally seized $42,000, $20,000 off the end of a guy's pocket when we were making these purchases because there's such a profit margin in it.
What age group do they use to target? Any particular age group?
We've seen everybody do it. I mean, a lot of I'm talking young kids. I mean, young teenagers. I talked to one of the agents. He went to his neighborhood store a couple of weeks ago, and he said that they had a line lined up just for this. They were buying just this stuff. They weren't buying anything else. They were just purchasing that.
My final comment would be that I just here again want to commend you, Commissioner Coughlin, taking the lead on this, and it's been long overdue. It seems like we always have to be reactive instead of proactive. Somebody had to lose a life and live before we recognize it need to become a national, a state, or federal law. Hopefully, in this case, that we would step up to the plate and make the right decision. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Dominic.
Commissioner Cox, I'd like to thank you for moving this forward. This is a great issue that we need to look at. Lieutenant Townley, appreciate you coming here today, giving us the insight.
Oh, yes, sir, no problem.
Sometimes, I guess we walk around with blinders. I've seen this stuff in the rural areas of North Caddo Parish, and it is disturbing. And I would just ask that, I think this was before us last month, we need to make sure that Charles or Donna, we need to make sure we get some research to find out what exactly we can do to prevent this or curtail this. The most things that Commissioner Cox is saying, if we can make it be sold behind a wall or behind the counter out of plain view, because I don't want my 8-year-old boy or 6-year-old or even my 12-year-old hopefully not knowing about it. I just wouldn't want to know about this stuff. It's unbelievable. And I guess what you're saying is this synthetic, I call it synthetic marijuana, what did you call it?
They're marketed under potpourri or incense. It's a synthetic cannabinoid, which is synthetic marijuana.
Cannabinoid, that's what you were
Yes,
saying.
sir, cannabinoid.
So I guess they basically buy this and just smoke it just like you would smoke marijuana?
That's correct, and I can tell you right now, this is probably just the beginning of some of the legal ways to get high that they're selling. There's some other stuff that's coming out that I've gotten some information about, that if it's not in the schedule through the DEA, it's not a Schedule 1 through 5 drug, it's not going to be banned. And that's what they're doing. They're selling this stuff is not Schedule 1 through 5 right now. The state of Louisiana, the one that's illegal is Schedule 1. It's on the same schedule as marijuana. But like I said, not all of it's illegal.
Well, same thing as Commissioner Cox, we need to continue to work together with the Sheriff's Office and Gary and you. We need to come up with something to hopefully prevent this, curtail it, do something. We need to protect our citizens.
Yes, sir. In fact, Chief Parker's also, he sent me a bunch of stuff too. He's done a lot of research. If you can look, you can go online and look at it. A lot of municipalities across the nation have tried to take the step to make it illegal. If the state's not doing it, they're doing it in their county or doing it in their city.
Well, and the other issues, of course, are the drug paraphernalia stuff. That just shouldn't be out there in front view.
I've actually seen one that was when they banned this, they also made smoking devices to go with it, made it illegal also to sell in that county also. So.
Well, we need to look at all these issues, and hopefully the commission can do something to move this matter forward. It would be much better to try to prevent some of this stuff.
Yes, sir. My job is hard enough getting all the other stuff out of the street, but I don't worry about you can go right to the gas station down the street within walking distance and buy this stuff and get, somebody's going to get stoned out of their gourd, and it could be a school bus driver, it could be somebody driving down the street that's passing your kids and you and have a head-on collision.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming again.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Escudate.
Carl, thank you for coming today. I apologize for not speaking to you before the meeting. I didn't recognize you. Last time I saw you, you had hair, and I wasn't turning into an old man. So, appreciate you being
down
here.
Right here, that's all. Down a little lower, that's it.
I think we've got several issues you can attack this thing from, but the main thing is they're selling it as incense and potpourri, so that's how they're getting by that. So it's very hard for us to restrict the sale of incense and potpourri. Now, what they spray this stuff is this chemical. I guess it certainly there's no THC in it. That would make it a Schedule 1 narcotic.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe one approach would be to ban or seek to govern the chemicals in the additive. That's just one approach legal may have to look at. That if any product that has this added, then we can reasonably assume it's not for potpourri or incense purposes because it doesn't need to be processed that way. That could be one aspect of maybe to look at it. I know in other states, as you mentioned, another way we could restrict it is to, I wouldn't want it behind the counter. I mean, I'd like to see it put as much beef into the ordinance as we can, if we can't do anything, and that is require a room where you have to have an ID, a separate room to go in there to buy this stuff. They do it in Florida. If you go to, everybody goes to the beach in Florida, in this town they got all these head shops and all this kind of stuff, and that may be one thing. Make it very difficult. They're supposed to sell it, are they supposed to be over 21?
18. That's what they market it as, but there's no law, there's no rule saying that. And the only thing about going and changing, making say that whatever the ingredient is that's sprayed on, they're illegal. And that's how they're getting away through Louisiana law. All they do is change a single molecule on the formula, and that right there, then okay, well that's not illegal for Louisiana. Matter of fact, I have here several, these are actually lab reports from some of the stuff that we bought, saying that does not contain anything illegal for the state of Louisiana, and it comes back it is illegal for Louisiana. So, but that's how they're getting around it. We'll ban it, and then they'll change it, and I'd like you to see it totally banned like the military. They're just totally, anything that is, and kind of the key word that I think Chief and I talked about is a hallucinogenic substance. Something, that's what it's for. It's for to get somebody high, and that's kind of the big word that we're kind of hitting on. I want to make it as broad enough to encompass. Not only they have these different ones, but every day there's a different one coming out with a different type of ingredient, and it's all geared at the same thing to get somebody stoned out of the wood.
Well, the key is going to be to define it to have a universal ban on it, because it's defined as potpourri or incense now, and I mean, you can buy that at Bed Bath & Beyond, I guess, you know. That's what makes it difficult. And then, of course, even if we define it and ban it, y'all are going to have to figure out whether or not that conflicts with state law, because you know how all that stuff works. I think we've got a big problem here. I think it can be addressed in many ways, but I think it's going to take an effort not only with us and our legal staffs, but in cooperation with the state, and I guess the state police. Who's the main state's drug enforcement entity?
Well, in Caddo Parish, the Caddo Sheriff's Office is.
Okay,
the Caddo
statewide they don't do anything, they just legislative in?
Yes, exactly, correct. And that's why
potpourri, what is it, like what does it sell for, like a quarter ounce?
Actually, it's about a gram or 3 grams, and it's like $30 a gram.
Okay, well, how much is
You
a
can buy
gram?
marijuana for about $5 a gram.
Pardon me?
You can buy regular marijuana from $5 a gram.
That's how much a gram?
No, this is $30 a gram.
$30, see, I've never heard anybody go into a coma smoking the real stuff, you know? Maybe we're banning the wrong stuff.
I could argue all day about legalization, so.
Well, you know.
I mean, I don't believe in legalizing any of that.
I'm not talking about that, I'm just saying it just makes no sense to me. So, you know, it's costing them a fortune. Generally, these people don't have any money. One final thought on that, too. I don't know how the Sheriff's Department has enforcement on this, but I imagine that when you do these things or these checks, if you got with the INS or something, that if you check the immigration status of most people operating these shops, you could take care of it right there. You know, that's just my thoughts on it, but I'm committed to working any way we can to try to stop this, and I think one way is to severely restrict it, make it inconvenient. You've got to go into a room. Maybe we can get the state legislature to boost the age limit for buying these kind of products. And I'm almost like you on the pipes and the bowls and all. It doesn't matter what they call it, you know, with the little flower in it. You know ultimately what it's for. And I don't want to be the heavy hand of government, but we certainly have to find some way. So anyway, I'm committed to working with you, and I appreciate you being here.
Ms. Feldman.
Yes, several of us, basically urban commissioners, and have you spoken with the city of Shreveport, the city attorney, to be included in the legislation that you're trying to get?
I'll go ahead and answer that. What I wanted to do today was bring the Caddo Drug Enforcement down and introduce it to you guys first.
Well, the reason I'm saying that, most of us know that it's been in our community for a long time, and you all just basically finding out about it.
It's been in Southern Hills for a while. It's just I don't shop at those stores. So, but yes, I want to get the parish and the city together when they work on the ordinance between Gary and our attorney to get something, and then we bring in the city, because it's not even doing anybody good if we just do it in a parish and the city doesn't have the ordinance as well. So yeah, that's in our plans.
That's my question.
I can answer part of that. I actually represent the Caddo Shreveport Narcotic Unit. I'm the lieutenant up there, so I'm with SPD also. I've been there. We've been combined for 8 years now. So, and I'm kind of representative for Shreveport on this. I've spoken to the representatives over there about trying to get the same thing enacted. So we're all together on it. Yes, ma'am.
Good, thank you.
Ms. Lynch?
Just have a quick question. Is any of this used for medicinal purposes?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
And Mr. Johnson?
I would just like to have language to say not to have it behind the counter, but to actually ban it from Caddo and Shreveport as well, when y'all work together to write the language. I think we should take the lead on this and show an example for the state, if we have to, that we're actually banning this in our parish, in our city, instead of just saying behind the door or behind the counter that you can still get. So it really doesn't defeat the purpose. It just makes it out of the eyesight. But for the ones that are continuing to use it and can go out and get into a vehicle and cause an accident, we're only creating a Band-Aid for it.
And I think that's what Mr. Cox and Chief Hawken are talking about, banning, trying to get the synthetic marijuana banned, but I believe you're talking about just the smoking devices, get them in a room somewhere, is that correct?
Yeah. But
actually ban this stuff altogether, you're right, that's the only way you're going to be able to solve it.
All right.
And like if you can do a lot of research, there's a lot of municipalities that have across the nation that have banned it and successfully done it, so.
Last thing, I just want to thank Mr. Townley. Gary, did you want to say anything while you're here or on some of the stuff that you've already looked at?
I'll just be very brief. We have looked at this, and y'all have hit on the critical issues involved, and that is defining the prohibited substance. Because when you criminalize something, you have to be very specific in what you're going to define. And the reason we have not yet got to a comfort level between Lieutenant Townley and I to present it to the Parish Attorney's Office so that they can work their magic on it, because we're trying to graft some of the state statutes that already prohibit or regulate controlled substances onto a parish ordinance and do it in a way that will withstand legal challenges, and it will be specific enough for people to know what's being outlawed. And if we can figure out a way to do this so that when they start changing the chemical compound around, we still have it covered, and the public is still on notice from reading the ordinance that this is still a prohibited substance. And that's kind of the tricky part, and that's what you hit on, that when you outlaw something, it has to be specific. And when the substance is a moving target because of the changing nature of the compound, it's a new challenge. So I think we'll get there, and East Baton Rouge has enacted one, but we would like to modify that. I mean, they've put one into place. I think that's the biggest metropolitan area in the state, and there's some out of state, but we'd like to. But we're using that as a starting point. But it takes a little bit of work, but I think we'll get there. And if it's something y'all like, then we want to make sure it'll stand up. But that's what we're doing.
Well, and the test of time tells all, because kids today, I saw a report on the news where now they're trying to eat cinnamon. And you take a spoonful of cinnamon and you swallow it dry. And kids are dying of this. Now, if they ever do that, they go out and spend $30 to the clerk that will sell them this trash. And they'll do that. And, parents are asking, are y'all doing drugs? No, we ain't doing drugs. Because technically they're not, but they are. And sooner or later, it's going to come back and bite somebody and hurt somebody. So I appreciate what you've already started, working with us, working with the city. I hope to get this done pretty quick. And I don't want to do it quick and miss something. I want it to be, when we throw this thing out, it's a locked deal. So nobody can get around it. So I appreciate y'all's time and help.
This will be our second round. I hope our final speaker on this until we have something to look at and really discuss.
He covered some point, but also you need to look at the health care costs associated with this particular drug as well. You hit on something, that there are models around America where local municipalities and counties are trying to address this in a legal, in a ordinance format. Do you have any knowledge of other counties, and you didn't mention Baton Rouge, outside of the state of Louisiana, that are trying to target this particular problem that you're addressing today?
There are a few. And it's kind of a hit and miss process. I mean, they're scattered around. You can go on the internet and search, and you'll find some that are doing that. But I guess, again, the biggest metro, and I think some of the really big cities, Chicago and Los Angeles, have ordinances prohibiting those. But again, they're a little bit older, and I'm not sure they were prepared to address the changing nature of the chemical compounds, and that's what we're trying to address now. Since we're coming along a little later, which is not good, but it may be to our advantage because we're seeing some of the problems that they may not have been able to address when they originally passed their ordinances, if that makes sense.
I'm glad we're taking the lead, like Commissioner Johnson and Cox are saying. Let's take the lead. Let's not follow. Let other cities model from Caddo and cities.
We would like for that.
Hey, thank y'all very much. We appreciate your input and information, and I know that the Commission will do everything we can to help with this problem. Thank you. Okay, Paul.
Next we'll move to special resolutions. Resolution proclaiming April's National County Parish Government Month. Mr. Lynch has asked that I read this.
All right. Go ahead and read, please.
A resolution declaring National Parish County Government Month. Whereas the nation's 3,068 counties, parishes provide a variety of essential public services to communities serving 300 million Americans, and they take seriously their responsibility to protect and enhance the health, welfare, safety of their residents in a sensible and cost-effective way. And whereas the National Association of Counties first celebrated National County Parish Government Week in 1991 to raise public awareness and understanding about the roles and responsibilities of the nation's counties to meet the needs of the community. It has continued that tradition, choosing healthy counties, healthy families as a theme for the 2012 month-long observance. And whereas county parish governments are essential to America's healthcare system and are unique in their responsibility to both finance and deliver health services through public hospitals, clinics, local health departments, long-term care facilities, mental health services, and substance abuse treatment, and coverage programs for the uninsured. And whereas National Association of Counties President Lee Ellison is encouraging counties, parishes to promote healthy living and lifestyle choices in communities across the country through his 2011-2012 initiative. And whereas the National Association of Counties is the only organization that represents county parish governments in the United States, their organization has always encouraged counties, parishes across the country to actively promote their own programs and services to the public they serve. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caddo Parish Commission does join with other parishes and counties nationwide in hereby proclaiming April 2012 as National Parish County Government Month in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, calling all citizens to recognize and reflect upon the invaluable role that parish government plays in their lives.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Lynch, second by Ms. Bowman. Cash vote, please. Mr. Escudero?
I'm a yay.
It's unanimous. Okay, communique and committee reports.
Yes, sir. President Thibodeau, good afternoon, Commissioners. Just want to let you all aware that I did receive a final draft today on the Shreveport Caddo Economic Development Authority, the CEDA program, along with the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement. I sent each one of you all a copy of this for your review. And the changes that we talked about the last time with respect to the Committee 100 and the committee and the board making the appointments are reflected in this report. So with your leisure, could you read it, and just give me any feedback you may have, and we'll go forward. This is the Joint Economic Development Partnership with the City of Shreveport. Final draft, along with the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement that will come before you all for your passage.
An email to us?
Pardon me, sir?
You said you emailed that to
Yes,
us?
sir. Everybody got a copy today. If you'd like me to print you out a copy, I can do that as well, but I email everybody a copy today.
Can I ask him a question about that?
Mr. Escudero, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Would, as a courtesy, would you email that to the city council members? They seem to be about 6 or 7 weeks behind on getting all that information on this. Would you? Thank you.
Yes, sir, I will.
But it hadn't changed.
Mr. Lynn?
Mr. Wilson, have you or anybody else in your departments have had the opportunity to read that?
I read partially through it today, and I have not completed the reading yet, but I read up to the page.
Whenever you get it absorbed completely, would you touch base with me and possibly some of the other commissioners as far as how well it is balanced between the parish and the city?
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you, sir. That's all, Mr. President.
Ms. Lynch?
Yes, I had a question. I need to get a quarterly legal report.
Okay.
I'm not really sure when this last time we had one.
What would he? Quarterly legal report.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other speakers. No president's report.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson, I think, is on there, sir.
Okay. Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, different subject. Got 2 points. First one is April 17th. We'll have a town hall meeting at Southern University in Jesse Stone Building at 6 o'clock. And the second point is dealing with a piece of property that's in District 2. I want to show the pictures first so that you can actually see what some of the homeowners actually have to wake up to every morning.
Is this in the city or the parish?
This is in the parish. It's one of the loopholes we got in our property standards. This building is a commercial company, pretty much bordered on two sides by residential, fire station on one side, and next picture. That really doesn't tell too much. The company has no running water for the office, for the office worker. If you look here, you see a lot of fence junk that's been brought back to this location and put in front of the owner's property, which is in the back of the residential area right there. Next picture. We've been through the justice of the peace and the constables, and he goes, see the justice of the peace, pays a small stipend, and he goes back out and continues to dump in the front of the business. So this is, like I said, a loophole we have in our ordinance. These people have to wake up every morning and look outside and see junk, see havens for rats, snakes, and other type of rodents. Mr. Jean, would you come up and give us an update of where it's at?
From an enforcement point, with the NPC, this has been taken to court. It has currently been in a continuance that was granted by the judge until May. We're not able to do any enforcement on this until we hear from the judge. And so as long as that's the case, we will go back to court in May. We'll see. We'll continue to press this issue as we have to try to take care of some of the issues here. But right now, as long as it's been continued by the judge, we are not able to do any enforcement. We will update Mr. Johnson as soon as we hear back on this, and I will be able to, give you more detail that's in the file. But at this point, that's where we are. We have had a case open on this. We've taken it to court, and we're not able to do anything else until we're back in court again. So as soon as we're back in court, we will, and I will give you exact information on that court date. If you would like to attend that, we have that for you. But that's where we are right now. We're just not able to do anything as long as there's a continuance in the case.
And that's why I said there's a loophole, because there's a process in order for that person to get a business license to operate. And it's taken, I've been on top of this since I've gotten in office in December 2010, because residents immediately started calling me and saying that this is a problem. And we still haven't gotten a real answer for it yet. So it's easy to get a permit to get in business, but it's harder to get that permit taken away from you from being in business. So it's something we need to work on and try to fix.
Mr. Epperson?
3 veterans issues. House Bill number 18, the Louisiana State Legislature has passed unanimously in the House and over to the Senate. That's making any person that assaults an active military person in uniform will have to serve a maximum at least 1 year without benefit of probation or parole. House Bill number 133, which allows the Louisiana State's driver's license to have your veteran status entered onto it, has passed the House, and it's in the Senate with amendments, and that's where it is at this point in time. The Veterans Parade and Honor Committee will meet Friday, April the 13th, 2012 at 11 o'clock a.m. in the Commission Chambers. Thank you.
Getting back to Mr. Johnson's problem, can we condemn the property? I thought in our laws that we wrote up that we can go in if it's just that bad. Because I know we dealt with Junker Jim in the city. Stephen, you still here? So we dealt with Junker Jim in the city, And we basically threatened him with condemning his property until he cleaned it up, and he cleaned it up in about 2 weeks. Why can't we do the same with this?
Well, the way the ordinance currently reads, Commissioner, is dealing with abandoned, dilapidated structures. This is the people, the owner shows up every day. He's running his business out of there every day. You would have to check with Mr. Grubb, the attorney, see if you do have that authority. But the way I read it right now, all I could do is bring it to you, the commission, and then the commission would have to make a determination whether they want to try to condemn it or not. Things of this nature, that's the reason we went with the JPs. But the problem is we're finding that several of the JPs do not want to enforce the ordinance to its fullest. As you remember, the ordinance gave the JPs the authority. You went through the state legislature. Mm-hmm. They can fine the individuals $100 to $500 per day till they clean it up. And this is the portion that none of the JPs want to do, and or 30 days in jail. Okay. They have not taken the step to go to the maximum.
All right, Steve, I need to ask you a quick question about this. Which judge is it before, and why did they postpone it?
I don't have the judge's name with me. I can tell you the opposing attorney's name, but I don't have that with me today.
Okay.
Yeah, Ron Michaud is the opposing attorney, and he was granted a continuance. I did not get all the details of this case. When I learned it was continued, then I didn't go much further than that, because as far as our enforcement side of this, I'll be glad to get much more detailed information on all the aspects of this case to Mr. Johnson immediately, so that he can take appropriate action if he wants to appear be involved in this case in any way.
And Mr. Johnson, you're dealing with this, but we've dealt with this for years since I've been here for, my 2.5 terms. The problem is we write these things, and you have an attorney that tells the guy, we'll just put it off. We'll ask the judge, we'll put it off, where people stop complaining. But on the other side, and this is something I've asked some commissioners to look at, I want to go back and revamp our JP situation. We've got too many that don't want to do anything. Now, I'd like the minutes, or see if we can get something that
we will get
from
you
that trial.
Yes, sir, we'll get you all the information.
Because if that JP, and this was in JP court, it wasn't in district court or anything like that, right?
I believe it may have been in district court.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with a land use issue here on our side. This is not property standards. We're dealing with a land use issue that's been cited, been taken to court, and now it's continued. So we will make sure that this commission has all the information regarding this case, so that you can be involved in any matter you deem appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay? So we'll get that information to you immediately.
Yeah.
When I was asked for an update, that's exactly what I was prepared to do, just give you the update today. If you need a lot more information, we'll be glad to provide that.
Okay. Thank you.
Question. It seems to me, instead of overburdening an issue that we clearly can't do anything about today here, and was obviously brought up intended for informational purposes, since there's nothing on the agenda, that this ought to go to the Property Standards Rural Committee, so we can go back and whoever's on that committee and do their due diligence. I know when we tweaked our ordinance 2.5 years ago, and we spent almost a year and a half making sure that we wasn't overreaching but protecting the general public's interest, that we said that if this thing would need tweaking as it goes and be a work in progress. I just think it needs to be assigned to the proper committee. I think there are ways to deal with this and review it and let them come back with a recommendation, and then we'll be able to do something to prevent this in the future, and possibly even, depending on what the court rules, compel this gentleman. Because if he's got a business, if that's the thing, that's his loophole, then obviously he's got an occupational license. If you got an occupational license, I think you're supposed to have sewer and running water. Well, if you don't have an occupational license, you shouldn't be in business. Fire marshal, somebody ought to be able to shut him down. So anyway, I think we need to refer this to the committee, and let's look at this case as well as tweaking our laws. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellent observation, Commissioner Escudé. However, Mr. Steve Jean, could you come back up to the podium, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is this a special land usage? Is it zoned in a residential, commercial? How is this zoned in that particular area?
Again, so I didn't come prepared to talk the details of this case today. I'll be glad to do that. I'll be glad to provide you with all of the information. This was brought to my attention many months ago that there was an issue with Mr. Johnson. And all I've been doing is tracking where it was in the court system. Since it was continued, and I've learned that it was continued, really didn't go any further. We'll be glad to provide you with all the detailed information. I do not know, on the enforcement side, this is not a case that came in front of me. It's an enforcement issue, and I will pull the file. I will get all the information that we have of record on this issue, and I will make sure that I'll get that to the clerk, and I'll make sure that everyone who would like to see this information is available to them. So but at this time, I did not come prepared to bring the details of this case, but only to update where it was, and that is that it's been...
Are you aware of how long he said it's been going on for the last almost 2 years? Are you aware of that?
It's been going on for a long time. This is not unusual, sir, when we're dealing with land use issues. It's quite... it's a laborious and very long process, starting off with notification requirements. Most of the time when we're dealing with enforcement, we are able to get the cooperation of the persons involved, and if it's an illegal use, we can get them in front of the proper board and make it legal, or then when we take it to court, and this is where we've had to come in this case. Generally, we get voluntary compliance, right. But when we're dealing with court cases, it's not unusual for these to go on for years, being continued and so forth. So, and talking with you about possible solutions to dealing with the ordinances themselves, we would be glad to do that as well.
I'll discuss it with you later.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll send this to the proper committee and see if we can get something going quicker. At least maybe we can get a condemnation on the property as soon as possible. Todd?
Next, we have no president's report. We move to adopt the minutes of special meeting held on March 19, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
To adopt the special meeting of March 19th, the regular meeting of March 22nd, and the special meeting of March 22nd.
Second. Moved by Ms. Lynch, second by Mr. Dominic. Cast vote, please. All right. Mr. Smith. Unanimous.
Next, we move to public hearing on ordinances. Ordinance number 5189 of 2012, an ordinance to accept a portion of Shreve Park laying in Section 30, Township 17, Range 14, that is not presently within the boundaries of the City of Shreveport into the Parish of Caddo system.
Anyone to speak in favor of ordinance number 5189? Anyone to speak against? The public hearing on 5189 is closed.
Ordinance number 5190 of 2012, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator designee to sell the parish's tax interest.
Anyone to speak in favor of ordinance number 5190? Speak against? Public hearing is closed.
Ordinance number 5191 of 2012, an ordinance to deem property surplus and to authorize the transfer of surplus property owned by the parish of Caddo to family resources for empowerment and education.
Anyone to speak in favor of 5191? Against? Public hearing on 5191 is closed.
That'll conclude our public hearings. We move to ordinances for final passage. Ordinance number 5189 of 2012, an ordinance to accept a portion of Shreve Park laying in Section 30, Township 17, Range 14, that's not presently within the boundaries of the City of Shreveport into the Parish of Caddo system.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lynch, second by Mr. Williams. Cast your vote, please. That passes unanimous.
Ordinance number 5190 of 2012, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator or designee to sell the parish's tax interest.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Bowman.
Thank you.
Cast your vote, please.
Ordinance number 5191 of 2012, an ordinance to deem property surplus and authorize the transfer of surplus property owned by the Parish of Caddo to Family Resources for Empowerment and Education, Inc.
So moved.
Second, Ms. Lynch, second by Mr. Johnson. Mr. Escabay.
What property is this specifically?
It's a van.
A van?
Yes, sir.
What's its estimated value?
I'm not sure on that, but we were going to sell it in surplus, and Commissioner Lynch asked it to be removed for a community donation, and it was going to go to the another organization that declined the use of it because they got some new ones. So this is a redistribution of that resource to agency that could use it.
I think it's a nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, he
Thank you.
answered it.
Yes, okay. Cast your vote, please. Unanimous.
Ordinance for introduction by title, ordinance number 5192 of 2012, to amend the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund in an amount not to exceed $50,000 for the Caddo Council on Aging's Meals on Wheels program. Ordinance number 5193, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund in the amount of $500,000 for the LSUS Animation and Visual Effects program. Ordinance number 5195 of 2012, to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Belcher concerning recreational services.
For those that are interested, you're reminded that immediately after the meeting there is an NGO meeting, and on that agenda is ordinance number 5192.
Next, we need to ratify the work session minutes of April 2nd.
So moved.
Second. Cast your vote, please. Unanimous.
Move to resolutions. Resolution number 16 of 2012. Notice of intention to construct and improve a water line within the east right-of-way of a portion of Goldsberry Road being located in a portion of lots 7, 14, 16, and 20, Shadow Pines Estates.
So moved. Second. Moved by the chair, second by Mr. Williams. Cast your vote, please. Unanimous.
Resolution number 18 of 2012, urging and requesting the Metropolitan Planning Commission to prioritize the planning of a safe and attractive pedestrian and bicycling network throughout Caddo Parish.
So moved. Second. Moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Williams again?
Yes.
Okay. Vote, please. That's unanimous.
We move to new business. Confirmation for reappointment of Miss Mary Talent to the Board of Lakeview Waterworks District. New term expires on March 17, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Dominic. Cast your vote, please. Unanimous.
Confirmation for reappointment of Mr. Leon Samuels to the Pine Hill Waterworks District Number 8 Board.
So moved. Moved by Mr. Johnson,
Second.
second by Mr. Bowman. Cast your vote, please. Unanimous.
Next, we move to confirmation for appointment of Mr. Robert Williams to the Pine Hill Waterworks District Number 8 Board to replace Mr. Curtis Davis, who has resigned.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Dominic. Cast your vote, please. Got a few people have not voted, including myself.
Oh, excuse me. Thought I had it.
Mr. Dominic? All right, that's unanimous.
Confirmation for Commissioners Tribal to attend forthcoming NAPCO Economic Development Conference to be held in Atlanta, Georgia, April 18th through 22nd.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Lynch. Second. Second, Mr. Williams. Cast your vote, please. That passes 9-3.
Move for adjourn.
Okay, adjourn.
And you'll meet me.
Here and there. Get out of here.